Okay, I'm just gonna go over what I do for my aim training. And it's kind of a mix of several people's routines. I've kind of just like picked and chose a few things that I've come to like while looking at other pros or teammates' aim training routines, or just people I've asked. So you should definitely have the map aim bots. It's just like this. You should just find this on the community servers. It's probably the most basic way to train your aim, and usually if I'm just kind of warming up shortly or briefly, I'll do it on this map. And I don't know, I've kind of just spent a lot of time on this map. It's really helped out. Okay, so the way I'm going to start, the way that I usually start is by doing tracking. So I'm basically just running around and looking at bots' heads, and it's kind of just like getting some good mouse feel. You just keep kind of switching from bot to bot, or you can just hold it on a bot. I'll usually kind of start with one bot for a long time, I'd say, unless I kind of don't like the positioning of it, or I just kind of get tired of it, I guess. And then I'll just switch to another, I guess. There's no real good way to do this, but you should definitely stay on these bots for a while. You should try to do like a 360 around them, just like lift your mouse, keep going and going, just making sure that you kind of know where you're gonna land. It makes it so that, you know, when you have to actually lift your mouse in a match, you don't feel so awkward or clumsy about it, or just kind of know where you're gonna land up with it. So I would do this for probably 10 minutes or so, and usually just hold it on a bot for a while. You should also jump too, that kind of helps. I mean, if you can track the bot while you're jumping, you should be able to track a person as they're jumping out, jump peeking or something. Can really help on pistol rounds where people are kind of jumpier, especially with Glocks and you have a USP. Should also do some crouching too, just crouch, look up to it. Just make sure you're kind of at headshot level always. The next thing I'll do is kind of, there's a few things I can do, but usually it's like flick shot training. So I'll kind of like move around and just go left. Like I'll start from the bottom usually, so I'll like pick kind of a point at the bottom. I'll look at it, then flick up to a head. I'll go from the bottom right, then I'll flick up to the head. I'll kind of go from a middle down left area, flick to the head. Oh jeez. And then I'll look from the middle down right, flick to a head. Then I kind of go headshot level. I do that a few times. I think this is the most common flick you're gonna have to make with the rifle, so it really helps to get this one down pat. Just keep going, like switching between like left, right, left, from the left, from the right. Then I kind of go higher up. And I kind of flick down a little bit. This is less common, but you sometimes find yourself doing this. Maps with like a lot of vertical, like verticality, like a nuke. Overpass even has some of it. Yeah, I mean, and then I just kind of keep doing this for a while. Do this for longer usually, maybe 10, 15 again. Do it for longer than tracking for sure. This is more realistic. So yeah, it's like bottom to the top, or bottom left, up, bottom right, up, middle left, up, middle right, up, then just kind of like left, right. And then I'll kind of do some spraying practice, just kind of doing some transfers. So I'll just start with one, and I'll just kind of try to like kill a line of them, trying to just know where my spray's at all the time. This is, again, not the most realistic thing always, so what I'll do sometimes is I'll like start shooting up here, and then I kind of have to guess where my spray is actually still, and then I'll continue it. So, yeah, you can start by like just spraying something a little bit, you know, you use, I don't know, maybe 7 or so shots, and you kind of have to know, okay, after 7 or so shots, my bullets should be in this like general area or so. So you can do big flicks with it. You can do it just kind of like going bot to bot. Just keep doing the transfers really. I'm kind of a hybrid player for my team. So I'm not the primary opper, but I'm a secondary. And another good way to practice opping, I say, is you get on the map, you open up all the areas, you lower this little thing right here, you press this middle button here, and the bots will start spawning everywhere around you. And what I'll do in the beginning is I'll just kind of quick scope onto them, just making sure I know where the middle of my screen is. This should come pretty easily. This isn't really that hard. And, oh, by the way, you should also pretty much constantly be practicing counter-strafing. You can even do kind of more advanced counter-strafing, kind of like I'm holding W and A right now, then I press SD fast. Or go the other way, press back like that. You never kind of know. I mean, sometimes you have to move diagonally, and it's not as easy to counter-strafe like this, but you should still be ready for doing it. So, that's a good way too. And after I get, I don't know, 10 or so kills, sometimes like 15 of just kind of doing that, I'll start flicking from the left. So, I'll keep aiming to the left of bots, and then I'll keep flicking to them. Just different, could be far length, could be a short length, could be just like that, could be all the way like this. And yeah, I'll do this for maybe 10 or so kills also. Actually, it's more like 15. And then I'll go from the right. Just keep flicking from the right. You kind of want to keep running around while you do this. Longer distances equals better practice. If you keep doing short flicks, or flicks on bots that are short and close to you, it's really not that much help. It's not really that realistic, honestly. You're usually kind of farther away when you're opping. You don't need to be like the complete map distance away. You're never really gonna have to flick like this. I mean, that's really hard. So this is really not that realistic, so shouldn't worry about this. But kind of like, I'd say 3/4 of the map is a pretty good amount of space. Maybe 2/3 of the map or so. And yeah, I'll just go left to right, right to left. Also go a little bit of up to, or down to up. Down to up's not that bad, but then also top down. This is kind of harder for me, so it's pretty good when I practice this. Take the time to. And I feel like this is actually a pretty realistic scenario. I think on Dust 2, for example, you're gonna be looking top mid a lot, and then you're gonna have to flip to the door like near you, and so this is relatively common flick you're gonna have to make. On Mirage too, if some guy peeks you from underpass or something like that, and you're looking cat, and he jumps up or something, you're gonna have to flick down to him. There's a lot of good uses for this, even though it's kind of an awkward motion. You should get pretty familiar with it. After kind of my aimbots warm up, I'll usually, oh, you can also mess with the settings too. You can have the bots look different ways. Like looking away from you is kind of helpful, because it's usually like being behind someone and trying to headshot them is just kind of notoriously hard. But that's pretty much all I would do for that map. Another map I use is the fast aim reflex training. There's a few of these that are out. It's basically all the maps where bots will run in a circle around you while you're on a little island. This kind of is partially tracking, partially flicking. You can kind of do two different aim styles for this. Also, this always happens when I join it. And you can kind of decide what you want to practice. You should turn the health and ammo all the way on. I usually use the USP. It's defaulted to giving you an AK lately, but I don't know about that. And so you can kind of practice tracking the heads with this. Or you can practice flicking. You shouldn't just let them run into your crosshair too often. You're never really going to do that. Or it's kind of rare for that to happen. You should always kind of like actively seek out the heads. If you just leave your crosshair here, like, you don't really do this in matches very often. I don't think anyone does this. They don't just leave their crosshair on a place. So just be sure to keep moving, keep finding the bots. You're not really trying to just like kill all of them. You're trying to just get good kills, I'd say. And there's two types of aimers what I believe is there's kind of flicky aimers and there's kind of tracking aimers. Simple, for example, is a flicky aimer. I have a guy on my team, probably our hardest fragger, is a flicky aimer. But people like Shroud, for example, are kind of tracking aimers. They're just really good at, they see ahead and they don't flick to it always. I mean, of course he has a few highlights where he does that, but he's really good at just like staying on things. I think more of the consistent players are tracking. They kind of have a kind of higher lows but lower highs, and the flicky people have the highest highs and the lowest lows. So I'll do this for usually 300 or so kills, which can take it's usually around 10 minutes, I think, maybe 8 minutes. But yeah, I think a good way to do it is probably 100 kills of kind of being tracking with it. Just like, you don't really shoot, you don't have to shoot immediately, but you just kind of like hold it on him for a little bit and then click whenever. And you should probably get 100 of just kind of like flicking. So it kind of prepares you for most situations. You can do spray training with this too, but the bots always end up running like right to this point. So what'll happen is you'll end up spraying, and as you transfer, you kind of just keep moving it closer and closer in. You're never gonna fire that many bullets, but like, yeah, you kind of can't get yourself out too far, and you kind of develop just a muscle memory for getting good at this map with this, as opposed to actually being good at transferring your sprays, which is, unless, yeah, because people aren't always going to end up right here, of course, in a real spray down or anything like that, so it's a little silly to practice it too much. But yeah, just do some track shots. And do some flick shots. I wouldn't alternate it too much. I would just kind of like practice one style for a while, practice the other style for a while. And that's usually what I do for this map. Then I'll end up joining a deathmatch for a bit. See if I can find any good ones. Doesn't matter if they're that good, but okay. I've never joined this one before, but just for the sake of the video, I am. And a good way to start for a deathmatch is actually practicing deagling. My teammate Nyquil told me about this. Basically, you don't even use a rifle at first, and by deagling, you're obviously going to have to aim at heads mostly. And what it also is going to help you a lot with is your movement. So you have to really stop and counter-strike properly if you want your deagle to be accurate. So yeah, you can't just like move around and be stupid too much. You're gonna probably end up with like a negative score, honestly. I usually do, especially if the deathmatch has a lot of like weird spawn points, which some of them do. But yeah, you should just kind of like get really comfortable with moving precisely and just you know, aiming at heads. After a while of deagling, you can switch to whatever rifle you want. If you're an opper, switch to an op 2. But yeah, this is pretty much how I usually end my aiming. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The whole routine, if you're really dedicated, should take, I'd say, 45 minutes. You can even go longer if you want. A little shorter won't hurt too much either, but it's kind of like, I'll try to break down. So for aimbots, you're gonna do first tracking, then you're gonna do the flicking, and then you're gonna do spraying, and then you're gonna go to the next map, the fast reflex map, and on that you should do, you know, like 100 tracking kills, and then 100 flicking kills. And then, yeah, you should just start your deathmatch with the deagle. And then just get into whatever kind of normal DM you want to do. And that's usually a really good routine. I've improved my ADR a lot in the last couple months, and I've pretty much followed this routine. Not down to a T, but pretty closely. It's just, it works really well. You're going to find pretty quickly, you don't even have to do all of these steps. If you want to just do the aimbots one or the reflex one. The reflex one's the one where you're on the island, kind of in the middle of everyone, of the bots that are running around. If you do any of these, really, you're going to find yourself improving. You just got to have kind of, you have to make a concerted effort to make sure you kind of know what you're working on. If you're just kind of jumping into an aimbots thing and you're just like spraying, just like killing everything, you're not really obviously practicing anything. But if you practice your tracking, practice your flicking. If you're bad at one and you want to get good at the other, you should practice it. If you want to just get really good at one, you should just get really good at it. You don't have to keep switching, but I like to be pretty versatile because you never know what kind of situations you're going to find yourself in, and when you're going to need to flick, or when you're going to need to, when you're going to have the opportunity to track something. Tracking is kind of like, if you have a really good opportunity, you should do a tracking shot. If you're surprised, which once you build your game sense, you should be less and less surprised all the time, then you should just get really good at, in the beginning, flicking is kind of really good, but once you develop that game sense, tracking is better. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about aim training. So that's that.